Hello and welcome back to Elise Explains IP. Today I'm joined by Ahona Chakrabarti, a trademark lawyer from India, for another episode in our international IP series, where we explore how intellectual property laws and branding challenges differ around the world. Ahona specialises in trademark prosecution and brand protection, helping businesses secure and enforce their trademark rights in one of the world's fastest growing economies. With India experiencing rapid innovation and an explosion of new brands, she has first-hand experience navigating the unique challenges that businesses face when protecting their intellectual property in this market. In this episode, we'll be talking about some of the biggest misconceptions businesses have about trademarks in India, how India's first-to-use trademark system works, the rise of non-traditional trademarks such as sounds, shapes, and even scents, and the growing impact that artificial intelligence is having on branding and trademark strategy. Whether you're already doing business in India or the subcontinent, or you're simply interested in how intellectual property is evolving around the world, there's plenty to learn from today's conversation. So I hope you enjoy it. All right. Well, today I'm delighted to have Ahona on the podcast. Ahona, do you just want to, before we jump into it, tell people a little bit about yourself and how you got into intellectual property?
Sure. So I'm from India. I've been born and raised in India. Um, During my law school, I had done several internships. So the thing is in India, in law schools, there is this culture where students feel that if you don't do an internship during all the breaks, then you're really like missing out on something. Okay, so we always had that stress of, oh my God, like we have to find internship. So we pretty much done it all. Like we've tried, like I have myself done like NGOs, I have done litigation, I've done civil, real estate, all of it. Somehow when I did my first I've actually done only one IP, pure IP internship. And somehow when I just did that, it was the training, it was probably the kind of work that I happened to do on that internship, but it really just get sick of doing if I had to do it like for the foreseeable future. And then as I started doing it, it's also the creativity of it, just like how brands are being conceived, because I never, like doing anything which is very some like very monotonous or very dry or it's the same, it's very paperwork oriented. I wanted to do something where at least I have a little bit of imagination and creativity at my end also. It's not just the brands that are coming to me. So, it overall clicked and I thought, okay, this is something that seemed interesting. And then since then, I've just been doing it and I realized that it was the right choice.
Fantastic. And speaking of intellectual property, then, I know this is like choosing your favorite child, but what is your favorite kind of intellectual property or intellectual property matter that you've worked on?
See, I have, so I'm I work at an IP firm, but I have only been doing trademarks since the beginning. So I have only done trademark prosecution and enforcements. So for me, I think that's the best because that's the one that I understand the most. That's the one that I know the most. And to me, that's the one that feels least complicated, right? Because I've done it. I have done it. So I love that. But right now, honestly, I feel like there are so many other kinds of trademarks or other kinds of IP. And also, somehow, these days with like technology and the newer things that are coming up, it's very interesting to see how, like gets relevant in places where we couldn't even thought it was relevant. We couldn't even have thought, because earlier, it was a very strict and streamlined things of like patents, inventions, copyrights, artistic work, etc., etc. But now, in the very like subtle ways, IP becomes relevant. So I think that is quite interesting to see because recently I think one of the, like for example, recently I was working on this trademark, which is like a very fanciful device. It's a device of a human face, right? But it is completely imaginary. It is not similar to any face. It is a fully digitally created image. But we were having so much difficulty convincing the officers that, because they were saying this is a human face and you have to get the consent of the person, right, to get it registered. And we were like,
Yeah.
we can't do it, because it is not a real
They're not a
person.
real person.
No, it is not a real person. So luckily then we came across a newspaper article which extensively covered the aspect of how digitally created images and AI created images are now coming up, which are looking very, very lifelike but are still not human. So then, I happened to, upload that, and I sort of like told him kindly, please go through it and see this is also a similar sort of a situation. And then finally, after like 3, 4 hearings, that got accepted. So it was, these are the newer things that keep coming, and I think IP is constantly evolving. So
I
I
think so.
love that. I love that. I love it because beyond your everyday operations, also, it's just nice to see how it's relevant. I mean, it's not relevant to a particular, group of people. It's relevant to every single person.
Absolutely. And what would you think is the biggest misconception people would have about intellectual property in India?
Um, so I think for Indians, when we are working in India for a lot of local clients, they have a misconception of, when you can start using it. But so a lot of times people see registration process, as you all may know, in every country it takes a little time. It doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes people do feel that filing means a registration. That is not the case. We have to tell the client that just because you filed it doesn't mean you have the registration. So that is one of the important things that I have come across, and also that they get agitated about, why, if it's taking so much time, when do we launch our business? So we often tell them that the registration is indispensable. It is important, for securing our rights and everything. At the same time, it's not that at least in India, like India is a first to use jurisdiction, right? So use is not subject to registration. What we would recommend is investing on a very good clearance search to see whether the mark is available or what are the likely risks, and then the companies can take a commercial call on whether they want to launch it before the registration or they would like to wait for the registration. But it is a very, very often common misconception that people have, that they can't use the mark until it is registered, which is not that. And I think for companies or clients outside India, I feel like often what I'm noticing, India is often considered as the second, priority jurisdiction. The first
Mhm.
filings often happen in US, UK, Australia, and all of that. And then India comes later. But the problem that we often face when we're dealing with such instances is that India is now a very, very fast growing economy. There are like so many, the startup culture has really grown in the last few years. There's so much more invention, there's so much more development, there's so many FMCG products that are coming up. So it is a very IP heavy country. Okay, there's a lot of IP filings, there's a lot of new IP that's coming, there's a lot of new businesses. So if your brand is something that you intend to use globally even in the future, I think clients should consider India as a primary jurisdiction, because what happens is if you become well known outside, and because India has so much infrastructure and technology to bring it up, there are so many reputed brands which are facing objections in India under Section 11 because the filing is delayed. Like the brand must have been used for 20, 30, even 100 years outside India. But when they come to India, they face an 11 Section 11 objection, which is on the basis of a prior mark. So that, is very frustrating. See, there are always there's mechanisms to defend it. We defend it most of the times we get it also, but it's an unnecessary obstacle. So, it would I be really helpful for brands to consider India as one of the, early or primary jurisdictions, because we don't want this. Because see, in India, to be very frank with you, even though we get these things through often, but even to establish transborder on little this thing, we have to establish some proof of reputation in India. We can't just say that okay, internationally we are prior, so we should get it in India, because some officers are lenient. They consider the fact that the other person must have copied it, and they consider the special circumstances, but that is very discretionary. So instead of going
Yeah.
into that risk, if you're thinking big, if you're thinking global, it's
Grand
better to go.
plans.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, fantastic. And also, I think I read somewhere that India is running out of trademarks because there's only so many combinations of like letters
But
and
we
things that make sense. So certainly something to look into there.
especially some classes, like class 35, class 9, these are extremely class 5. These are very, very quality classes, and there's so many variations that you can come up with. So, it's better that you secure it as fast as you
Applications in early.
can.
And how does India handle sort of non-traditional marks like smells or 3D marks or sound marks?
Quite advanced that way, because we have, I think, a sound shapes have been registered for a while now. There are shapes are there is a separate for shape of goods, and then there is a separate 3D mark also. So these are separately registerable, and these have been going on for a while. Um, in addition to that, I think even landmarks have been granted registration for a while. There are several popular landmarks that are registered. There's the HP sound, there's and all of that. Even here in UK, there are many sound. These are the two, I would say, unconventional trademarks that are already accepted and is that it's done. It's now very easy. The problem comes with, so for example, things like smell marks, right? It's very difficult to graphically represent it. But recently, in I think last year, even the first smell mark got registered in India. Well, not registered, it got accepted and published in India for the scent of roses in respect of tire, like vehicle tire. Yeah, so that was a big development because it was one of the first. So what they had done is they had represented in a vector graph to show what are the predominant coming from that particular trademark. And obviously it was quite technical, but it went through, and because of the fanciful nature of it as well, right? Because a smell of rose doesn't come from a tire. Another was like it. I think it is the first sound smell mark that was registered in India. And see, in India, the definition of a mark is very broad. It's not an exclusive definition. It's an inclusive definition, and it covers everything from a color combination to a word, label, device. Tag, all of that. It's a very, very broad definition and it's an evolving definition because it is inclusive. So these days, a lot of new things are coming up that we are facing, which are not strictly traditional. And yet, like color marks also, for example, there are some color marks which have been granted registration in India. But the thing is, for color marks, there's a little bit of, extra caution you have to see because see, colors in general, every color is used in different fields. So you have to do a little bit of extra due diligence to see whether that particular color or color combination has any, significance in that field.
Yeah.
But even then, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I think color marks are generally difficult to get registered.
Yeah. So I think that was very interesting. In fact, this is not a matter I handled myself, but one of my colleagues handled it. We had a single color. Ordinarily, single colors are considered non-distinctive, but somehow this was such a unique color, and it was a unique combination of two Pantone codes. So we were able to get it through by saying that, this, even though it's a single color, it's a unique combination of two distinct colors.
Two colors, yeah.
Yeah. So, we were able to establish that combination thing in that instead of in a single color registration. So all of these, these are the newer things that are coming up. These are the newer things that are interesting to learn. In fact, I don't know if you're aware, so in India, there's a very famous hotel, in Mumbai, in fact, there's a very famous hotel called the Taj Mahal Palace. It's been there for many years. It's been subject to a terrorist attacks. It's very popular. It's all over the sea. So that particular building, the shape of that building is protected under trademark. It's a registered trademark. So that is also one of the very interesting things because so nobody else can register the same shape for another
shape.
building. So these are the very interesting things that have happened over the years, and I think more things are going to come up, and we are going to learn and evolve with it.
Absolutely. And have you had any sort of AI related trademark or branding issues come up in India so far, or any cases where that's been an issue?
See, as far as cases are concerned, there haven't been a lot of cases. There isn't a lot of precedent in India per se, regarding, for example, AI created or AI dominated work, or for example, AI plagiarized or something like that. AI related issues have not been taken to court so much yet. But having said that, I think AI has become very, very ingrained in a lot of industries, because yesterday I was at a seminar, and there was somebody from a media company, and they have specific AI for developing films and all of that. And I think obviously we all of us know that AI has already come in. Every company is using it, or every second company is using it in some way or the other. But how the extent to which AI has become integrated in certain fields, it was very interesting to know, because we are still thinking that AI is evolving, but there are media industries who are creating maybe like huge percentages of the movie through AI, right? And we like the person showed a clipping of an upcoming film, and it was significantly done through AI and VFX and other sort of like digital technology. So I think so far, people are using it. Some industries are heavily using it. Some industries are cautiously using it. Maybe to um, get a trademark, because it's instead of paying somebody, a marketing person to come up with a brand that using the help of AI. So, but the problem that I think would like to highlight personally would be that often two. I think that there would be two things. One is you can't always rely on AI to come up with distinctive marks, because you have to understand AI is still basing a lot of, at least the AI that is readily available to everyone, right? There is a lot of, high end AI, there's a lot of paid packages, those must be better. But what people usually end up using, all of that is heavily based on what data is already there. So you can't come up with a mark without using any imagination of your own, because AI also is not that easy. You can't just be like, give me a trademark for this particular product and it'll give you something distinctive. So I would suggest that, if anybody is using, that's fine. But to be a little cautious and to, use your own prompts better. So if you come, because otherwise it's so fast and there are so many trademarks already in India that people are just spending a lot of money on the searches, where even though we are telling them this is how you have to conceive it, try to come up with something which doesn't exist, try to come up with a fanciful mark, not a dictionary word or something which is an arbitrary or something. But people keep coming up with the same combinations, because that's what AI also after a point gets saturated, right? So it keeps throwing the same results at you. I think that is one. And the second issue is using AI related terms in your Mac. Things like GPT, or, things like something AI. These you have to do it very cautiously. You have to make a very informed decision on whether that particular expression that you're using is something in the public domain and you can adopt it as a part of your mark. If not, it's better to refrain from doing it. If you're using any AI related terms in your mark, please make sure that there is something else which is distinctive. These are things that we often face, because a lot of people, common people, when they are trying to adopt a brand, they don't know, they don't understand IP law that well, right? This is still different. We have this word and they have that word and all of that. So this is something that it would help them to come up with better brands. I don't think we can defy AI anymore. It's there and it's gonna come. So I think the better is we learn how to work with it and we do it in a fair way. So yeah, that's it. But I think AI is like laws surrounding AI is still evolving. So there's not a lot of precedent or like statutory laws on it yet.
Yes.
It's an inevitability. It's gonna happen soon.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ahona. That's been really great.
It was a pleasure.
Before we go, I just ask you to give us one final parting piece of advice for all of the listeners out there? And secondly, if you could just tell people if they want to work with you, how to get in touch with you. And we'll also put your details in the show notes as well.
Definitely, definitely. So I think the parting advice would be to the trademark shouldn't be the last thing that you do when, or even any IP, because a trademark is often the last thing that brands, or companies come up with. They made the business and they try to find a mark. That can be something, but you need to, really like know how you came up with the mark. Do not, just randomly come up with something because of a prompt from an AI or something that seems obvious. Do not do that. And
Yeah.
once you've done it, before you register your domain name, before you register anything, before you set up, before you invest in anything which contains the mark, please do a search.
Mhm.
Because it solves a lot of problems, because so many times, we come up with instances where I'm doing the search, but it's already registered as a domain. So that, it's either a waste of money, or somehow I have to find a way to work around it or give a solution on how to use it, because it happens more
It
often than
does.
you would think. So I would advise that before you do anything with that mark that you thought you adopted, please do a search, get a clearance, and then you can go ahead, get your domains and all of that. I think that would be one of the things that would be very helpful to companies.
I
And
100% agree.
exactly, yes. And to get in touch with me, you can reach out to me by email.
We'll put
So
it in.
yes, yeah.
Oh,
So
if you'd like to, we'll put it in the show notes.
yeah, sure. That will be great. So I can reach out whenever anybody needs help.
Amazing. And if anybody needs help in India, Ahona is your girl.
Yeah.
Person to reach out to.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to help. Even if it's
Fantastic.
a pitch, I would love to help.
Fantastic. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Elise. Is that correct?
Elise, yes.
Elise. Okay, sorry. Thank you so much for having me here. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks. Thanks for spending time with me on Elise Explains IP. If you picked up something useful, hit follow, subscribe, leave us a review, or send it to a founder friend who could use this information. And remember, this is general information, not legal advice. If you do want help with your IP, you can book a strategy call with me at any time via my website. The link's in the description. So until next time, own your own ideas.